every emotion, every belief, every fear that we have is layered. So we deal with what we can at a given time. And then that can be a stepping stone to the next layer. And then we deal with that. And you keep taking out, withdrawing your energetics from the collective energy and also from your own soul's unconsciousness, which gives more room for your natural consciousness, your soul's consciousness, the essence of who you are, to flow. And the more space that you create through resolving your emotional issues, the more space you give for your consciousness to flow with ease. And then you feel more of the purity of yourself. So you start operating from your authenticity. Now that doesn't mean that everything's going to go your way and you'll never hit a red light again. But what it does mean is that when you're dealing with it, you're coming from a more conscious place, because there's more consciousness in your system. You are of your natural essence. So instead of hitting it with resentment, you may hit the experience with compassion.
Insight and awareness, spiritual explorer. Soul intuitive, emotional and spiritual mentor and award-winning author, Lorraine Nilon.
Welcome, explorers, and thank you for being part of the adventure. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying the podcast. We're trying to build a channel that has a place for us to explore many concepts around spirituality, personal development, just self-understanding and self-awareness. We look at lots of different issues and mainly interview authors who have taken the time to write about what they've been exploring. All of us are on a soul journey. Some realize it, some ignore it, but we're all on a journey of self-discovery. The older we get, the more we realize that we didn't understand ourselves when we were younger, and what we know now we wish we knew back then. And that's like an evolutionary process. It's a maturing that we all experience. I look at that also as an opportunity for soul maturing. When we're looking at our soul journey, we've come here on earth in a soul in a physical body, having an experience that we're, yes, co-creating, but a lot of factors are also creating around us. So we're part of a bigger picture on this plane and also from where we come from, which I refer to true source, divine origin consciousness. And back 20 odd years ago, I just labeled it that. Actually, somebody else had gave it to me, because I didn't want to get confused with all the other belief systems and I wanted to explore. But you're actually, when you are exploring, you're exploring the history of beliefs that you're being indoctrinated to. And you're also exploring the collective history of beliefs that we've all been impacted, influenced by. One of the important things to remember is that your life is unique to you. No one else is experiencing exactly the same as you. There's themes that we can all relate to. There's experiences that we can share. We're still going to experience them individually. So the brilliant thing to remember out of that is that there is no one exactly like you. And you are a rare and precious soul on this earth. And from understanding that you are this unique being, really shows to us the importance of learning to understand what resonates with you, with your soul. And when something like a truth hits your soul, you'll feel it. You may not be able to articulate how it feels and why it's important to you, but you'll feel it at that deep level. And that's the kind of information that you should be looking for. What feeds your soul and makes you curious to understand more. So in this episode, I'm going to explain the collective consciousness. Now, do I know everything? No. I wrote about it 20 years ago when I was in the exploration of your Insight and Awareness book. And how I did that is that I would explore a concept, I would write about it, and I hear information. I don't class myself as a channeler, but I hear information and it would steer me in different directions and it would give me concepts. And then I would go out and explore, how does that work in our day-to-day life? How do other people think about this? So I would hold small workshops, probably about 10 to 15 people. People from all walks of life used to come. We would explore these concepts and always learnt from the people that were at the workshop. And also, when you teach something, you learn more about it. And it's just how it works. So I would do countless workshops and explore these different concepts. And then I would document the different responses and then I would rewrite the section, which is why the book took me 20 years to write. But within that exploration, the things that I learned was that never hold on to a belief system and just go, this is how this works 100%. I always believe that I know somewhat of the information. And because life and my journey, I've kept learning, understanding, and it's layer after layer after layer. And when you give yourself permission to respect that, you'll find your control energy, or some people refer to it as your ego, subsides a little bit. Instead of trying to prove you're right, you can sit really comfortably in the unknown and allow yourself to explore. And to me, that is the true essence of spirituality. And then other experiences will come along that will help you explore what you understand so far or drag up what you're reluctant to look at. So, if we're going to go and have a look at the bigger picture, we have to understand the smaller picture. So, each of us have had numerous lives, and all the things that we created, say like jealousy, resentment, that are not natural to our soul, until we got to a point that we can resolve them, they stay within our energetic system. We carry it. People can say it's your shadow self, I refer to it as like your soul's unconsciousness. There's a lot of names for the same thing, depending on where you've been exposed to it. So our unconsciousness, our shadow self, has all the things that we have been reluctant to deal with, or things, that energy that we created because we didn't understand ourselves. So we have a physical body, and we have our emotions and beliefs and our stored thing that comes from our past, and that's part of our energetics. Our energetics are of our soul, and anything that is unresolved within us becomes the energetics of our soul, as well as the consciousness of our soul, the purity of who we are. And we have these two energies. So the consciousness of who we are is always connected to true source, divine origin consciousness, which is just the label I've given where we come from. You can replace that label with whatever you believe is the name for where we come from: universe, truth, all those kind of expressions. So we are always got this flow of energy going through us that is of source, the purity of our origins, our divinity. And what we do is, when we forget who we are and we don't operate from our natural essence, we create unconscious energy that doesn't flow with consciousness. Consciousness flows, and that gives us a frequency. Unconscious energy, shadow self, emotional baggage, however you want to word it, is a vibration, and it keeps vibrating until it gets your attention. And we've got to have lots of experiences for us to deal with what is left unresolved. And that basically is part of the soul journey, is that we are born, reincarnated, and anything that we haven't dealt with before is going to be presented this lifetime so we can deal with it. And as you've heard me say before, there are many who are trying to really awaken to the truth of themselves. And they have what I refer to as no rock unturned sort of blueprints, that they're going for it this time. Others, it's okay. They've just come here to do a bit of reconnaissance and maybe deal with one thing. And it's not a scaling system. It's the uniqueness of that soul has chosen what they feel they can accomplish this lifetime. And we all have the potential to walk an evolutionary pathway for our soul. Soul maturity can occur. So when we're looking at that, each energy, each unresolved emotion that we have has, think of it like a bank account. We've got deposits. And what actually happens is on the collective consciousness and in mankind's unconscious collective energy, which is around us, that is part of our existence. Anything that we have in our system also registers in that system. So to give an example, say I have to deal with resentment. I always use resentment as the go-to. So I've got a lot of resentment in my system. As I have a lot of resentment in my system, that also means that I've invested that in the bank account of the collective energy of resentment. And as I start to resolve my energy, I'm actually pulling out that collective energy. I am no longer contributing to that collective, and I am doing a service to humanity. So, as you would have heard me before, I refer to as mankind as souls within a physical body who have forgotten who they are. And I refer to humanity as the souls within a human body who remember who they are. And when we operate from our humanity, we operate from our natural essence. When we operate from indifference, resentment, jealousy, judgment, all those lower vibrations, if you like that terminology, we're operating from mankind energy. And part of the soul purpose is to resolve our portion that is contributing to the mankind unconscious collective. And sometimes what you get is when you start resolving something, say we'll stay on resentment, you're resolving it. Sometimes you can feel a pushback, and that is the collective energy. It can be referred to as Wetiko. I call it controlled evolution energy, dark forces. You can feel a pushback. It wants you to stay invested into the collective energy. But it also does us a favor because it makes us have to choose. And because when you choose, I don't want to align to resentment because it'll feel like the best way I can describe it is you'll feel an energy around you. It may not get into your system, it may just be present beside you, and it will keep offering you the energy that you're trying to resolve. So it can just be a ball of resentment, and you can feel it and respond to it with your own resentment. And then you're generating your own energy up. So you're reinvesting in the collective energy. It will leave. You may not feel it because it's aligned to it. You may only have 10 cents worth invested in that collective. And if you keep playing with it, you'll end up with $100, then $200, then $1,000. But it's your $2,000, even though the energetic of Wetiko can kick you off. You're making the decision to reinvest in it. And a lot of people that have experienced going through something and then resolving it can feel themselves get pulled back into the energy that they were trying to resolve. And sometimes it's just because you can feel that energetic force around you. If you don't align with it, you keep moving forward because what you're doing is then saying, I understand this. That doesn't serve me. I'm not investing in resentment anymore. And it means that you're integrating what you've learned. And that means you're converting to wisdom and soul maturity. Every emotion, every belief, every fear that we have is layered. So we deal with what we can at a given time. And then that can be a stepping stone to the next layer. And then we deal with that. And you keep taking out, withdrawing your energetics from the collective energy and also from your own soul's unconsciousness, which gives more room for your natural consciousness, your soul's consciousness, the essence of who you are, to flow. And the more space that you create through resolving your emotional issues, the more space you give for your consciousness to flow with ease. And then you feel more of the purity of yourself. So you start operating from your authenticity. Now, that doesn't mean that everything's going to go your way and you'll never hit a red light again. But what it does mean is that when you're dealing with it, you're coming from a more conscious place because there's more consciousness in your system. You are of your natural essence. So instead of hitting it with resentment, you may hit the experience with compassion. You may, instead of dealing with it with self-loathing and judgment or blaming someone else, you may take it from a point of appreciation of what you're experiencing and invest in learning about yourself. You may also have some clarity because you can see beyond what your judgment used to fog up your vision with. So the more that you get honest with yourself, and that's what self-reflection, contemplation, all that is about, becoming more truthful. And it starts off with being honest about what you're experiencing and what you're aware of. Generally, what we do is one of our first barriers when we're looking at our soul's unconsciousness. One of the first barriers that we've got is resistance, denial, avoidance, or codependency. It might be codependency on a belief, codependency on a fear, codependency on victimhood, whatever it is. And what that can do is hold us in our soul denial. Now, if the dark forces are strong enough and we've aligned too strongly to it, which I mean if we've aligned to our resentment and spite and indifference to truth and all those nasty kind of energies, which we do, and on occasions we've all done it, when we align too hard with them, we can feel a fuel that can come in and it can splinter. And that aspect of ourselves can cause us to keep protecting our unconsciousness. So we do align with our resistance, denial, and avoidance and codependency. So the first port of call with really dealing with ourselves is to recognize the barriers we have to understanding ourselves. So soul denial, which is the crux of our unconsciousness, is our rejection of ourselves, our refusal to accept that we are of source and we are part of divinity. It also is a rejection of what feels natural to us, which I refer to as core essences. So compassion, integrity, unconditional love, all those kind of things. So we have this rejection of ourselves. So then we operate from the resistance, denial, avoidance, and codependency, judgment, manipulation, confusion, and control. And we start worshipping our desire for control, to be right, to have life work to our expectations, which we all know it never does. And then we have images, illusions, and controlled identities. And that's another barrier. We align to an illusion of who we think we are, and we create an image that we project to the world. And then what that can do is cause us to lose awareness of our natural self. We disconnect, we disengage from who we are, and we perform. And part of the spiritual or soul journey is to connect to the truth of ourselves. And then we have controlled identities. So we define ourselves by the roles that we have. I'm a mother, I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, whatever it is. And then we tell ourselves that is who we are. But the reality is that's what we're experiencing. I'm Lorraine, a soul in a physical body, and I'm experiencing mothering. I'm experiencing being a podcast host. I'm experiencing being an author. It explains my experience, but it doesn't explain who I am, because that's deeper than the things we do. It's about the being of yourself. The next barrier we have is controlled evolution. They're the beliefs and the fears that hold us, limiting ourselves, where we don't let ourselves explore. It's also where that Wetiko energy comes in at. It wants that dark force within the collective energy doesn't want evolution. It wants us in the lowered vibrations so that we can continue doing what we've always done, controlled evolution. Evolution means that we're moving and understanding that there is a reason to operate from something different. We evolve our understanding of ourselves and allow our natural flow to be of prime importance instead of the images, illusions, controlled identities. So when we're on a spiritual journey, or just life in general, even if you're not considering it as spiritual, just life in general, you are dealing with all these negative forces that you can't see. If you've got negative beliefs, ask yourself what triggers them off. Is it someone else's judgment? That can be classed as a dark force. I'm not doing the Hollywood, horror thing, but there's energy that it wants us to keep reinvesting in the collective mankind energy to keep it sustained. Whereas if we're after evolution, we've got to withdraw our energy from there and pull back to ourselves. And we can only do that if we've resolved the energy within ourselves. Now, do I think that can be done in one lifetime? Probably not. I'm still trying to deal with all my stuff as I go forward. And, every experience is going to drag something up within my system. And sometimes it's just an expression of my consciousness. And sometimes it's going to flag up something of my unconsciousness. And all I have to do is be honest about what I'm experiencing. And I'm already halfway there. And then it's about exploring it. We learn from contrast. And then we have to make a choice of how we want to live and how we want to show up in the world ourselves. Not because I want you to appease my image, not because I'm trying to play out this illusion, not because this is a role I think I should have, but who am I and how do I give myself permission to express that? The energetics of mankind are a collective of our past and present unresolved emotions. All of us are standing on history, our own personal history and collective history. And all of that has an influence on how we feel. And that's okay. All you have to do is know that and then ask yourself what really resonates with me. And if I'm programmed into a belief, am I hanging on to it, codependent on it, because it's been programmed into my system? Is it because it resonates with me and I feel the truth of it and I accept that? And until I know different, that's what I'm going to align with. We've all run from belief systems. It's just whether or not we allow ourselves to do the expansion and contraction, expand the concept of exploration, or contract into a limited sense of what we think we should believe. If you just trust yourself to go into the exploration, it may be very interesting what you discover. Our personal unresolved emotions, our soul's unconsciousness, is a microcosm of unconsciousness, and our collective mankind is a macrocosm, but they are connected. And our mission, our purpose is definitely to resolve our contribution from the past and the present to that mankind energy. And when we look at the last barrier that is in our soul's unconsciousness, it's heresy. And it operates from denial of reality. And how often do we do that? Where we deny the truth of what we're experiencing and instead try and infuse our wants and desires into reality, which never works. Somewhere along the line, we can fool ourselves for a while. But somewhere along the line, our denial of reality will come and hit us in the face, generally when we don't want it. Part of the evolutionary process is to be very present and be very honest about what we're experiencing internally and externally. One of the major energies in this barrier is indifference to truth. When we decide that truth is no longer of importance and our judgment and perception is all that we're going to worry about. Now, we all run things through the filters that we have, and we all have distorted filters. But when we become indifferent to truth, we devalue it. And once truth is devalued, then it becomes distorted. And we can fool ourselves within that distortion. And we do it collectively. And we've forgotten that every soul on the planet's important and significant. But if we are indifferent to truth, we'll ignore the importance of compassion and honesty. And we'll just align to whatever we want to feed our control energy. Indifference energy is always feeding the desire to control. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to achieve control, but it's the striving for that fuels the indifference. And then we have resentment of reality, where we get stuck in the past and we hold that place and we hold to the resentment and we don't allow ourselves to move forward because we want, which is always good when someone does. If you've been victimized and someone validates that for you, that is very healing for people that have been victimized. But if we hold on to the resentment, it's like we're drinking the poison. So we resent the experiences we've already had. And what that does, it impairs our ability to learn from the past. And it sets us up to keep repeating what we've done before. We don't like it, we don't want it, but we're generating the energy to keep walking down that pathway. Then we have oppositional energy, where it doesn't matter what we're doing, we want to oppose it. We want to, and we've all met people that are stuck in oppositional energy, where if you say it's black, they'll tell you it's white. If you say let's go right, they'll want you to go left. It's just they oppose everything. And we do that to our soul. We do that to our natural essence. We oppose the beauty within ourselves. And sometimes that's one of the hardest things to realize what you're doing, because we start worrying about how we will be perceived and how people will judge us. So we stifle our own authenticity. And that's what we're trying to allow to flow. So self-opposition will take you into self-loathing and harsh self-judgment. Nothing will be good enough for your own perception of who you should be when you're operating from resentment of reality and indifference to truth. And if you understand that, then you realize the pattern and the system that you're working under is not serving you. And that's a door opener to just discovering, at least trying to find out who you naturally are without your judgment crushing it. Then we have programming and conditioning and indoctrinations. We've been programmed to believe that the world should work a different way and been conditioned to accept it and tolerate all these things that aren't really working for us. We don't have clean air anymore. We don't have good soil. We don't have fresh water. Those kind of things. We've been conditioned to accept that's how it is, and that's what we need to tolerate for us to have the lifestyle we've got. But is that true? We can be programmed from very young to believe certain things about ourselves, indoctrinated into our family beliefs, society beliefs, the beliefs that were around in the era that we grew up on. Some of them are not bad, but some of them are impeding your ability to understand yourself. We've all got these kind of programs, conditioning, and indoctrinations. But to understand yourself, you need to really explore whether they resonate with you or you've just latched onto them because you've been too lazy to contemplate, which we do. We all do it. It's just how we work. Then we have guilt, shame, and humiliation. We feel guilty, sometimes for things we didn't even do. And we feel shame. We believe we're not good enough. And we're worried that people are going to notice it. And then we fear humiliation, that people are going to make us feel small, stupid. And they become a barrier that can hold us separated from our awareness of ourselves. And we also have the desire for control or to control, where we desire that if we are in control of our lives, people around us, events, all those kind of things, we can keep ourselves safe. But that desire for control can actually cause us to feel more at risk than actually being present in what we're experiencing, trusting ourselves to deal with whatever comes our way. We're all going to have experiences that rattle us. We're all going to have experiences that we didn't see coming. And people are going to respond to us in a way that we didn't expect or deserve. But how you feel about yourself and that inner sanctum of who you are, that's your responsibility. And when we take that responsibility and we own accountability to ourselves, for ourselves, then what we do is give ourselves permission to nurture ourselves, to support ourselves, and be the true caretaker of our own soul. And sometimes we forget that's who we are. That this life and all the different aspects of ourselves, part of our job is to be a true caretaker of our own soul. And when we disassociate, from feeling who we are, feeling love for ourselves, feeling the divinity of who we are and valuing it, the disassociation from feeling it creates a separation from our awareness of it. And then we can nearly invite the collective energy to steer us. And it became, it's been often referred to as a mind virus. Wetiko is like a mind virus. But it is where we allow the collective unconscious energy that's controlling our evolution to take over. And we perform. So the more we allow ourselves to feel the truth of ourselves, the truth of what we're experiencing, those feelings become communication from your soul. And if you're aligning to something that is not of your soul, you can become more aware of it. And then you make a choice from knowing that. Everything comes back to choice. And the sad part is we are so conditioned and programmed and indoctrinated into all those different beliefs that we forget that we're making a choice. And we're just holding to what has already been done before. Understanding your soul's consciousness and unconsciousness, there's a lot to it. And like I said, I don't confess to understand it all. But I do understand we are part of the collective unconsciousness, as we are part of the consciousness collective. And we are the interface in the middle. And we are choosing what we align with, what we explore, what we value. And if we give ourselves permission to explore and trust ourselves to feel and be open to discover whatever it is we discover, then all of a sudden our eyes will be open and we are more, to use the popular term, awakened. It just means that you're operating more from your awareness and you're giving yourself permission to do that. I hope this helps you understand the energetics, and there's more going on with both your consciousness and unconsciousness than we often give ourselves credit for. I'm going to do flip the book, but I'm just going to open it. I'm in the section of understanding the energetics of the mankind collective from your Insight and Awareness book. So I'm just going to read out the first paragraph. Mankind mass energy consists of emotional, energetic, and physical energy. Your body is physical energy. You only have a body while on Earth, and your body returns to Earth when you die. You are a soul in a physical body. Emotional energy is a reaction to your reality from your unconsciousness. You can have emotional reactions to what you feel, observe, and acknowledge that cloud your perception of reality and inhibit you from being present and honest about the truth of your present moment. Your energetic energy is the accumulation of your past and present moment emotional reactions amalgamating to form an energetic force. You project this energetic force both internally and externally with the intention to deny truth and reality. This is how you ensure the sustainability of your separation from your awareness of truth and your disassociation from unconditionally loving yourself, others, life, and the presence of truth. That's a big paragraph, and it's a big concept to get your head around. When we sustain that position of not wanting to unconditionally love ourselves, and I know that is hard, and I still have moments, many moments, many moments where I don't do that well. There's many aspects in my life where I'm not doing that well. But what that does is makes us susceptible to the mankind mass energy, determining who we should think we are. And if we don't understand ourselves, we shouldn't really allow these influences to tell us who we are. And that is part of the evolutionary journey, the soul journey of learning to understand who we are at the core of our being. And it's important, and it's an event that takes a lifetime. It's not like we ever get to a finish line where we go, okay, now I know who I am, because each experience is revealing something else to us, both unconscious and consciousness. And if we don't oppose that experience, if we don't oppose that's part of what we're experiencing, then we can truly walk a path that is interesting, exciting, and is part of the healing process for all the past that we carry with us. And I hope that when you do that, whatever system you use, whatever, way that you do it, whether it's journaling or conversation or contemplation, whatever gets you to a point of self-honesty, that is the key that opens the door for you to keep evolving, resolving and evolving. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and like and subscribe if you want to know more. My parting words are, please remember that you are rare and precious, and you are significant. You were born significant, even if those around you in childhood, relationships, whatever experiences you have have made you feel insignificant, the natural being of who you are is very significant to both consciousness and unconsciousness. And you have the potential and ability to resolve your stuff and lighten the load for the mankind mass energy, a service for humanity.